I've got a friend of mine that's in trouble and he needs your help. And also, this is a warning. This is a warning to you of what is being taken from you. And, uh, and I hope that I'm clear on this. I actually have a Idaho Constitution in front of me, and it's very similar to most states. I've read it many times along with the U.S. Constitution. And I want to be very specific here, very um, careful with my words, so that you understand what is happening. And anyway, thank you for watching. Uh, we are doing good. In fact, I find myself in kind of a situation where I feel so blessed by the Lord that um, I want to just express it to everybody. And I'm so grateful for it. But I also know that if I express my basic blessings from the Lord, my enemies will attack me more. And I don't want to hurt my family further. So I just find myself in that. But I want you to know that I am being blessed tremendously. And the Lord is just pouring down blessings upon me in every way. My family is doing fantastic. My relationships are good. Um, I've repented and just continually trying to do good for the Lord and serve Him, and He is just blessing me. So know that, and know that the Lord can't keep you down if you just, or excuse me, the wicked can't keep you down because the Lord will lift you up, and that's just the way it's been. But now to kind of the burden of this message that I want to share with you, because there's a case unfolding in Idaho that deserves serious attention. And not because it's isolated and or just something that is a one-time thing, but because it expresses a deeper problem to how accountability is being handled in this country, and specifically in this case in Idaho. Now, Robert Jones is currently facing felony charges after he and his wife engaged in what they believe and what I believe was First Amendment protected expression on a public sidewalk. Now, um, the events leading up to this really matter, and the details matter. And but before I go into this, I want to reference the Idaho Constitution. The preamble says, "We, the people of the state of Idaho, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom to secure its blessings and promote our common welfare, do establish this Constitution." And the very first one talks about the inalienable rights of man, and that the duty of the government is supposed to protect that. That the government isn't about government agents, not about police officers, not about the government itself, not about those things. It's about the people and the rights of the people. And I do not believe that the Idaho government and the law enforcement officers in government have understand this or uphold this. I do not believe it, and there's many cases, but none better than Robert Jones's case. Now, it also goes on in Article 1 in Section 2, and this is very important. It talks about the political power inherent in the people, that all power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for the equal protection and benefit that they have, and that the people have a right to alter it when they want to. Basically, that these powers that the government has come from the people. And then it goes on, of course, in Section 9 says that each person, every person, may freely speak, write, and publish all subjects. And then it says that they have a right to assemble. The people have a right to assemble in a peaceful manner, to consult for their common good, to instruct their government, the representatives. These are the things that are in the Constitution, the Idaho Constitution, and they're fantastic, very much like the U.S. Constitution. Now, again, like I said, the events leading up to this, to the Robert Jones case, which is going on right now, actually the trial is going on right now as we speak, and these details matter because according to the family and the available records on this case, Napa police officer Caden Lyons was involved repeatedly, stopping Robert Jones's daughter, pulling her over, more than 8 times in just a couple weeks, if I understand it correctly. And most of these stops resulted in no charges. At least in one incident, a court ruled that law enforcement conducted unlawful search. So it means Caden Lyons, uh, he conducted an unlawful search of Robert Jones's daughter. And there are other accusations against, or excuse me, all the accusations against Robert Jones's daughter was dismissed. Now, these are not minor details because they are outcomes that raise serious concerns about how authority is being used, about how Caden Lyons used the authority of the people, the authority that I guess was granted to him as a police officer, how he used those. I mean, why would he be pulling his daughter over 8 times within a couple weeks? And then why would a judge basically rule that it was unlawful? And why would all the charges be dismissed? Now, let's talk about what happened next, because this is a progression of things, right? Not all of this happened immediately. So after Robert's daughter was arrested on allegations that were later dismissed, as I mentioned, Robert and his wife went to a public sidewalk near Officer Lyons' residence and expressed themselves peacefully. They assembled, just like the Idaho Constitution protects, right? They believed they were exercising their constitutional right to speak out, freedom of speech, right? To protest, to assemble, to demonstrate, and to hold their government officials accountable. Now, instead of the underlying concerns being addressed, Robert and his wife were arrested and charged with serious felony charges, including stalking. Charges that will put them in jail for a year or more and serious major fines. So, this is the core issue. The problem here is not complicated. There's repeated public police actions towards a citizen, and it did not hold up in court. A judge identified at least one action as unlawful. Charges tied to those encounters were dismissed, yet no visible accountability followed. Caden Lyons just has had no accountability. Now, at the same time, the individuals who spoke out in response are the ones who are now facing prison time. Is that balanced enforcement? No. That seems like one-sided power. Seems like institutions protecting their own. Now, we're going to talk about the failure of accountability. This situation raises serious concerns about institutional behavior. When a police department appears to protect its own officers rather than address credible concerns, then of course public trust is damaged. And this is what the Nampa Police Department has done. Not only that, when state prosecutors pursue severe criminal charges in response to a peaceful expression for a serious concern of an officer overacting and overusing his authority, it raises the question whether those charged are being used to deter or to silence dissent rather than to serve justice. I think it's very clear. Now, these are not small concerns because we're seeing this happen all over the United States. And we're seeing it happen in Idaho specifically here, and it's happened in many, many cases across the state. And it goes to the heart of how authority is exercised. Now, think of the human cost. Think of the Jones family and what they've had to suffer. For years, Robert and his family have dealt with repeated police encounters and harassment, legal battles, and personal and financial strains that come with them, which is tremendous to try to defend yourself in court for many years, and just the time and the burden and the anxiety that it causes. Now, his daughter lost educational opportunities. She had a full ride scholarship, and she basically left that because of this concern and just because of the trauma that it caused. His family has endured stress, of course, uncertainty, and the major disruption of their lives. These are real consequences, not just legal arguments. And this has a cost. Someone will have to pay for the suffering. And I believe it'll be not only those that are causing this suffering, but it'll be the people, all the people of Idaho. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, what this means to the people of Idaho. The First Amendment is not supposed to be conditional. If peaceful expression on a public sidewalk can lead to felony charges, while the conduct that promoted the expression goes unaddressed, that should be concerning to everybody. Because what does it do? It sends a clear message to those that are acting in the authority of the people, the police officers, law enforcement officers, so on. Speaking out against, basically they're saying that the message is that speaking out against government action carries more risk than the action itself. So an officer knows that he can go and do whatever he wants, and anybody who tries to oppose him is going to suffer more. And the message is being told to the people of Idaho that if you try to hold any government official, especially law enforcement officers, accountable, you're going to be the one to pay. And that's what the prosecutors are making sure that they are doing, and that's what the Nampa Police Department is making sure, that they're going to protect their own and you're going to pay. Now, this is the reality, because this is not about broad accusations. This is about a clear sequence of events. Repeated stops by an officer to a young woman who go to the level of absolute harassment. Eight stops in less than or around 2 weeks. Unlawful conduct that was identified by the court, dismissed charges, and then followed by felony prosecution to those who protest against it, especially a mother and a father who they're doing this to their child. Now, and then there's no visible accountability for what came first. No visible accountability to who caused this whole situation, which is keeping lying. Now, when those in power are protected and those who speak out are prosecuted, accountability is not being upheld, it is being reversed. And that's what this is all about. In fact, Robert wanted to hold the officer accountable. So he went and peacefully demonstrated on a sidewalk in front of his house. But instead, they reversed it and now are basically saying that Robert is the one who did something wrong, and he's the one, that potentially will hold a heavy, heavy price for this, and has already, his family. So what is the responsibility of the public here, of the people of Idaho? What is the responsibility? Because there is another reality that cannot be ignored, and that is when government does not operate in a vacuum. They don't operate just in a vacuum. When what is going on is allowed to continue, it will continue indefinitely. And when patterns like this go unchallenged, they don't correct themselves. They become normal. They become normalized. The people of Idaho are not powerless observers in this. Just like the Constitution says, that the power of the government comes from the people. Article 1, Section 2. It's the second most important thing they put in the Constitution of the state of Idaho. So you're not just powerless observers here. Ultimately, it is up to you to decide what is tolerated and what is not. And if clear concerns about accountability are dismissed, minimized, or ignored, then the consequences do not stay confined to one case or one family. They expand, because when the standard becomes look the other way, stay silent, assume it won't affect you, it eventually does. Eventually comes down to you and your family. And we saw that. We saw that during COVID. We saw where the government usurped authority and began to oppress the rights of the people. What did they do? They locked down Idaho. And law enforcement began to arrest those who were worshiping pastors in Idaho. They began to shut down businesses. They began to stop travel and all these things that are the rights of the people. And they did this without the authority of the people. Now, so it does come back to you. And what is happening in this case with Robert, if it is not corrected, will set a precedence that will become the normal of law enforcement. In fact, in many cases has already become the normal in the Idaho law enforcement across the state. And it just has to stop. Now, the same lack of accountability that impacts one family today, of course, will impact another tomorrow. And over time, the cost is not just individual hardship. It is the gradual erosion of the very freedom the people expect and rely upon, the very freedom that formed this entire Constitution. And I just don't understand how we can sit around and allow our government officials to just keep taking and taking, because there is a terrible pattern that is being set, a terrible action that is being put in place, and that is your rights that God gave you, that God gave every person that's born on this earth. Your rights, the right to worship, the right to travel, the right to trade with each other, the right to assemble, the right to speak. These rights are being claimed by government, in many cases in the courts. In fact, I can't tell you how many times a judge will say, well, these rights have limits. And they only have one limit, and that is when you use them to infringe another person's rights, which is exactly what government agents are doing. That is the only limit. That these rights are being claimed. They're saying that you have a right to worship if we give you permission to. You have a right to travel if we give you permission to. You have a right to private property to do what you want on your private property if we give you permission to. Do you see a pattern? You have a right to trade with each other if we give you permission to, and you pay us. These are the things that we're losing. And in this case, they're saying, well, Robert, you don't really have the right to free speech or to hold government accountable. That's not your right. That's something that we say you can do, and we say you can't do it in front of an officer's house on a public street. And again, this is something that will not go away unless the people of Idaho stop it. I hope you can see the urgency here. It must be stopped by the people of Idaho. And I don't live there anymore. I had to flee Idaho because of what they had done to me and the rights they took away from me. And I don't live there, so it is not my responsibility at this point. It is yours. And I leave it to you to be done. And it's my responsibility in Utah and across this country, and I'll do the best I can, and I have. And this hopefully exposes, and hopefully this message means something to you. I'll finish with this. Accountability does not disappear all at once. It erodes when it is ignored, and when people allow it to be eroded. The price is eventually paid by everyone. Thank you.